I'm sorry? Okay, sounds good to me. If everyone can take their seats, we're going to get started with our meeting. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. No. It is 6 o'clock, well, it's more like 6:04 p.m. on Tuesday, February the 24th, 2026. I'd like to welcome everyone to our city council meeting and call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone in our city council chambers as well as our listening audience watching on cable channel 22 and the City of Peoria YouTube channel. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali,
Present.
Councilmember Allen,
Present.
Councilmember Carmona,
Here.
Councilmember Sear, Councilmember Gordon Young,
Present.
Councilmember Jackson,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly,
Here.
Councilmember Euler,
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach,
Here.
Councilmember Velpula,
Present.
and Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
You have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Everyone, please join me and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on, I need to read a notice to our township electors pursuant to Public Act 095-0761. If you desire to have an item considered on the agenda at the annual town meeting to be held on Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 at 6 o'clock p.m., you are required to bring a specific request signed by 15 or more electors to the township clerk's office no later than March 1st, 2026. And the township clerk is also our city clerk, Stephanie Tarr. Any group of registered voters may request an advisory question of public policy for consideration by the electors at the annual meeting by giving written notice of the specific advisory question to the township clerk in the same manner as required for an agenda item under subsection B of section 3010 of the Township Code. Madam Clerk?
We are at proclamations. Do we have any proclamations for
Have
tonight?
no proclamations tonight.
So then we are on to the approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the joint city council and town board meeting held February 10th, 2026 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We have one public hearing. 26-45 is a public hearing regarding the proposed extension of the duration of the Westlake Special Service Area and increasing the Westlake Special Service Area sales tax rate.
Can I get a motion to open the public hearing? Moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Is there anyone present here today that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the proposed extension of the duration of the Westlake Special Service Area and increasing the Westlake Special Service Area sales tax rate? Please introduce yourself and any affiliation that you may have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. By introduction, my name is Bob Hall. I'm an attorney with the firm of Miller, Hall, and Triggs here in Peoria. And I'm here as the attorney for the Westlake Shopping Center and also the one that submitted the applications before you for the two matters in connection with the special service area for Westlake Shopping Center. Normally, as an applicant that's generally triggering or causing the public hearing event, I usually don't get up and make comments at this stage, usually wait for questions or wait for any objections for which a response is appropriate. But I thought there was a couple reasons why I could deviate from that. And one is I think it's helpful in the context of Westlake to see the background with which these requests have been made. And I say that because the Westlake Special Service Area has been in existence since 2010. And I think it's been a good example of how cooperation and work between the city and a property owner and developer and shopping center owner can be accomplished. I think it's also important, however, kind of as a follow-up of some of the implementation of economic development techniques that you've been implementing recently, to kind of see how all these kind of help fit together. Specifically what I'm referring to, it was very recently adopted a TIF that included the area out where Westlake and Northwoods is. You also, with respect to our other neighbor, Glen Hollow Shopping Center, recently implemented a business district. Well, just to bring to the forefront also, there's another development technique called a special service area. Having talked with a lot of you about it, I think you're generally familiar with it, but I think it helps to kind of see how something like that can be successful, not only for the ownership of a project, but also for the city. And I think the history and our operation of the special service area over the years have demonstrated this. And so in leading up to the addressing of the two specific requests, I just kind of look at a little bit of background. I would first like to think that most of you are familiar with Westlake Shopping Center. And I also would be hopeful that you find it successful, appealing, and worthy of your consumer dollars. It has not been easy to achieve where Westlake is today. It's been challenging, and I can say at this point, I don't think Westlake would be the success it is without the special service area. I'm going to explain how that kind of has happened. And also, I think it's important to kind of consider the challenges that one has to face that can be met by a special service area in the context of a commercial development like Westlake. In that regard, it's been challenging, as with a lot of centers, in that one of the things you have to do to be successful is manage change. And in the context of a shopping center, the change is usually vacancies. So you've got to be able to manage those, deal with them. You've got to be able to compete with competitors. And the service area, the special service area, has permitted that to be done. And here's how it is, and here's how it'll kind of be in a springboard to where we're looking at even further the success and continuation of the SSA with Westlake. It has done this, that is, Westlake achieved, I think, some success, and what I think is a good shining example of the special service area and work with the city. It's done this by the SSA and the funds it collects by making financial infusions to enhance and provide for improvements in the shopping center, whether they be the external appealing ones or whether they be the ones that address the infrastructure of the buildings themselves to try to address and change things around. And a lot of times, just as in your home, a renovation takes a lot more in cost and time and trouble than does building at scratch. And so we're competing in that regard because we're always having to face that renovation factor, I'll call it. Here's how it's been done. It's been done in kind of with two components. And each of them, what I'd say, be self-imposed. Self-imposed meaning Westlake and we came to the city and asked for this to be done. And specifically, it was the imposition of an additional real estate tax upon the shopping center. over and above what's otherwise payable. So it's nothing that comes out of the pockets of the city or any other governmental body that is included in the tax bill. The other thing it did was it requested the addition of a sales tax. And that, again, was also self-imposed. But it produced funds, which produced financial infusions, and so some of the improvements can be made. The first of which, and probably most expensive of which, were those paver parking lots that you see, which we think enhanced it, and it certainly prolonged the life of the center. Now, with that said, I think the results, I would submit, have been very positive. Have been positive and a success for the ownership of the center, and I think it's been positive for the city. And the reason is because with the success in addressing all the vacancies, like you can see other shopping centers in town facing big vacancies, and therefore maybe decreased value, decreased sales. Westlake has done better. You've had increased sales, therefore increased sales taxes. And Westlake has not in any way dipped into the sales taxes you would otherwise get if the special service area did not even exist. It's all self-imposed and in addition. The other thing, too, with respect to the real estate tax, all of the increment in the growth in value from the enhancements in Westlake Shopping Center have accrued to the value of the city. Contrary to, say, a TIF district, where the increment usually goes back, and at least for several years, typically 20, the city is going to be losing that increment. Not in the case of the special service area. So it has some other special values that the city has achieved and realized with that. So, and again, I go back and just repeat. Really, if you can view Westlake as being a success, and if you can view Westlake as being an addition both aesthetically and for a shopping experience for the people of Peoria, it wouldn't have been done if you hadn't, back in 2010, or your predecessors, if you hadn't worked with us to set up the special service area. Which brings us to the special requests, the limited requests. One of them is to let us increase the sales tax by 0.25%. What that means is on a purchase of $100, the additional charge to a consumer will be a quarter, 25 cents. Submit that the impact is not terribly draconian. And what that also does is it brings it in parity with the other commercial SSAs in Peoria and also the business district that you just implemented for Glen Hollow. It would have a 1% addition. Right now, the 0.75% is what is Westlake. The 0.25% will make it a 1% also. All the same. The other thing, we're asking for an extension. The extension, it goes out to 2055, and it's the same period at which the special service area started. And what we're trying to do with that is, with those two components, is to refinance with the lender for the SSA, which is Mort Community Bank. And with that, and dependent upon that, we're looking to most immediately fulfill the obligations of a signed lease with a national tenant, to put in a new sporting goods and sporting apparel tenant. Again, the lease is already signed, is all we need to do is get started, which is somewhat subject to your help and assistance, once again, as you've always been in the past. But the other tenant, Mr. Cohen and I, between last Friday and yesterday, have spent about 5 hours finalizing and negotiating the terms of a lease, which we expect to sign up shortly and have another tenant to fill in the vacant space where Humana used to be. Now, when you have that and consider that, when Guitar Center recovers from its water line damage break and recovers, which we expect that to be open in about 3 months, and then when you add these other new tenants to the center, the center will be virtually at a full occupancy, and adding more to the revenues through sales and everything for the city, as well as our SSA that goes back to the improvements. So I would just submit in conclusion that when this comes back to you on March 10, as I understand the agenda presently is set for, we would ask you to say yes, as you've been saying before. And I'd like to say and submit, Peoria's growth Peoria's been able to grow by not saying no. So We'd like you to join in some of the continuous things you've been doing in the past and trying to enhance economic development in the city. And I don't know if there's any questions or to be appropriate, but thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the proposed extension of the duration of the Westlake Special Service Area and increasing the Westlake Special Service Area sales tax rate? And lastly, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the proposed extension of the duration of the Westlake Special Service Area and increasing the Westlake Special Service Area sales tax rate?
Mayor, if I could, before we close the hearing.
Yes, Counsel Hayes?
Thank you, Your Honor. So, under the statutory provisions of the Special Service Area law, there's a required 60-day period after the public hearing until you can pass the related ordinances. In the past, the city has received a waiver from the owner of the Westlake Shopping Center and has shortened that period of time. I'm told to expect that waiver, and because of that, we'll be placing the final action on these items on the agenda for March 10th.
Okay.
So I just wanted the council and the public to be aware that we're complying with the law and using that waiver as we have consistently in the past on this SSA to move up that date. Mr. Hall has expressed today the transactions that are awaiting conclusion, and I would imagine that those lease transactions are dependent upon us taking action on the 10th as well. Thank you,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Counsel. So that waiver is submitted by the owner? of
Right,
the-
because the SSA affects the property owners, the notices and those waivers really attend to that person's interests. We have a single ownership here, which is rare over this span of time that a retail entity is still owned by the same initial owner, and speaks to the financial strength of this whole set of items. So we've recognized and accepted those waivers in the past to move forward on this matter, and I'd recommend doing so again if the council's inclined to approve these requests. Thank you, Your
Very
Honor.
good. Thank you. May I get a motion to close the public hearing? Moved by Councilmember Kelly, seconded by Councilmember Euler. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are on to the consent agenda. 26-46 is a communication with request to approve a contract for the 2026 landscape stewardship and maintenance projects with JIMAX Group in an amount not to exceed $350,000. 26-47 is a communication with request to approve a 6-year extension of the franchise agreement with i3 Broadband, Inc. to continue the construction, operation, and maintenance of video service and fiber network in the city of Peoria. 26-48 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 14, Section 18-621 of the Code of the City of Peoria relating to tobacco retail licenses. 26-49 is a communication with request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending Special Use Ordinance Number 15188 as amended in a Class R5 Residential Cluster Development District to allow for the installation of an additional freestanding sign for the property located at 2400 West Northmore Road. 26-50 is a communication with request to concur with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending Special Use Number 16932 as amended in a Class B1 Downtown Commercial District for the Peoria Civic Center facilities to add 4-foot-tall fencing in the front yards of the property located at 201 Southwest Jefferson Avenue, commonly known as the Civic Center, located at 201 Southwest Jefferson Avenue, 702 and 720 Fulton Street, and 109, 125, 129, and 135 Southwest Monroe Street. 26-51 is a communication with request to concur with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R2 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 615 West Timothy Drive. 26-52 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R4 single-family residential district for elderly housing for the property located at 1511 North Bigelow Street. And 26-53 is a communication with a request to approve the Labor Day picnic at Riverfront Festival Park on September 7th, 2026, sponsored by Peoria Area Community Events, Inc., subject to their filing of the necessary permits and approval as required by the city code. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilman Carmona, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are on to the regular agenda. 26-54 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve the sole source purchase of Econolite traffic cabinets from Traffic Control Corporation in the amount of $100,000, and this item requires 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6 votes.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is pretty straightforward. These are the traffic cabinets for our traffic intersections, signalized intersections, and it's a sole source purchase. That's why it's here on the regular agenda.
Okay. Questions? Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, perhaps you have just answered my question. Does a sole source contract require, is that the requirement? It's not that, it's not budgeted.
No, this is budgeted. This is
Okay.
just, because it's sole source, it requires the council to take a 2/3 vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You want to make a motion, Councilman?
Yes, ma'am. I would move to approve item 26-054.
Okay,
Yes.
seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Okay, Councilman Riggenbach stepped out, but motion passes, passes. Madam Clerk?
26-55 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to approve a resolution expressing official intent regarding certain capital expenditures to be reimbursed from proceeds of one or more obligations to be issued by the City of Peoria.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have our Finance Director, Kyle Craddy, here, who's going to explain the rationale behind this proposed resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This ordinance in front of you tonight is a little bit different than what we have done in the past in terms of bond ordinances. You are probably more used to us bringing the ordinance in front of you, saying we're going to go out to market and sell the bonds. What this ordinance allows us to do is take some more time in assessing the market. Kind of in our discussions with our financial advisors, we believe probably a late summer, early fall issuance is going to make more sense with where the market currently sits. You know, we might be right, we might be wrong. It also lets us work through a few projects in terms of what those dollar and cents are, because the minute that we put that bond ordinance on the table and it's approved, that sets what we're going to sell in terms of bonds. But with that in mind, what we also do have is we have projects that are starting or equipment that we need to purchase. And so what this ordinance does is it allows us to reimburse ourselves once we issue those bonds for those projects back to January 1, just so we don't have to go out and issue into a market that we don't at this point think is favorable for us. And I just want to kind of bring this to council's attention. It's a little bit different than how we've done these in the past. But with that, I'm available if council has any questions.
Director Craddy, what does our credit rating look like?
So we are a single A2 rating with a positive outlook. We're still kind of below what I would say for a lot of communities is that AA rating that really allows you to go into the competitive market. But what I also like to say is really what you're going to pay depends on what's out there on the market that day. I've been in AA credits that sold at a AAA rate just because of what the market was. We have seen a movement away from a negative outlook to a positive outlook over the last few years because of our fund balance levels. Really what the rating agencies continue to tell us, though, is that our pension obligation is the main driver of not moving up from our current rating.
Do you have any projections on when we might be able to get an upgrade?
I think we would have to get to a point that we are not seeing growth of our pension obligations the rate that we were.
Oh, my.
Because really that long-term liability is what the rating agencies continue to look at as the main driver for kind of where they're holding our credit.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Craddy. I am a little worried. If what your advisors are telling you, if the market believed that, then there wouldn't be any reason to delay. So they're stepping away from the market, which is okay, and saying, no, the market is not quite right, and we're going to have lower rates than the market thinks we're going to have in the summer or in the fall. I hope that's right. Dealing with the public's money as we are, we should, I think, I'm not going to oppose this just to get to the end, but we need to be careful. People have been whipsawed by interest rate changes, and if you were not perhaps as prudent as you might be, why you get hurt. So I think your request is reasonable, but I don't think we should make a habit of it. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Regenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Craddy, I was just going to say thank you for having the foresight and the acumen to realize that with the new chairman of the Federal Reserve Board coming on and just the market's anticipation of 2 more rate cuts, if not 3 yet this year. I think it's a very prudent move. Clearly, the world's a crazy place right now, and who knows what the geopolitical impacts could be, but financially, I think this makes a lot of sense, and thank you for thinking out of the box a little bit and not just rushing into something. So that's the stuff that sets us apart, and we appreciate your leadership. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Vespa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with what Councilmember Riggenbach just said, but, just to be clear, job growth is very poor, right? The last year, we only had 180,000 nationally. I mean, that's generally what you want a month to keep up with population growth. And then GDP was revised downward the last several quarters, and we had a very poor GDP growth report a few days ago. So that means that we should expect rate cuts from the Fed looking forward this year to stimulate the economy. But you also see the dollar being unloaded as a reserve currency overseas, which weakens the dollar, which makes me think that the Fed chair might second guess that. He might decide it's not a good idea to weaken the dollar. So I do agree with the conclusion. I think this is the prudent move. I mean, we can only make the best decision with the information presented. But I would have to guess that yes, these rate cuts are definitely coming to spur an economy that's stuck in the mud. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Kelly again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to remind the council that the rate cuts that are being talked about are short-term rate cuts, and we're talking of long-term bonds, which don't move that way, and the Fed has very little control over long-term rates. They do over short-term. So it is still iffy, but I'll vote for it. Thanks. Thanks again, Director Craddy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Gordon Young, seconded by Councilmember Allen. If there's no more discussion, please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
26-56 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to consider the site application for a Class C1 packaged goods liquor license for the retail sale of alcohol at Midwest USA, Inc., doing business as King Zone, 2411 North Knoxville Avenue, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to deny. And on your desk, there is a handout from Councilmember Carmona, and the cover sheet is entitled King Zone.
Okay. Is it Council Hayes? Do you want to speak to this, or City Manager?
Your Honor, the Liquor Commission met, and on the basis of the location and the proximity to some other challenged areas, the Police Department recommended denial, and the Liquor Commission recommended denial. The property sits a block and a half south of McClure on Knoxville, a smaller convenience store footprint with a small parking lot. And so that's why it's phrased to consider. And I think Councilman Carmona has been working with the owner and may have some additional comments about the request for site approval.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Councilman Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I kind of just want to start off by saying that I absolutely respect the site approval process. I do agree and understand with the concerns from the police department to deny under the current conditions. My goal tonight is to examine what I see as a opportunity, though. So in front of you, and I'll just kind of speak about it for anybody who's listening at home or in the audience. If you just go to page 2, I wanted to explain here what King Zone actually sells. So the first picture on top is something that I would think, anybody would look at it and say that that's an actual grocery store. So it's a bunch of spices, soups, coffee, tea, a lot of different stuff. The bottom left picture has some household goods, toilet paper, paper towels. The bottom right picture has some frozen meals, salmon, shrimp, frozen fruits and vegetables. If we go to page 3, the top left-hand picture will show a cooler with pizza rolls, breakfast sandwiches, and at the very bottom, there's a lot of ground beef rolls. To the right of that, we have a picture with the cooler filled with a bunch of pizza, some tortillas, and at the bottom picture, would probably be my kid's favorite aisle, is a bunch of ramen and different Asian noodles. Picture 4 is just another look at the spice area where there's a bunch of condiments and potato chips and some household cleaning goods as well. Picture 5 will show you the current state of King Zone, which, believe it or not, looks much better than it did just 2 months ago, because the owner's doing a pretty good job of trying to clean the area up after my recommendations. Now, what you see right below that picture is a pretty cool design of what King Zone could be. It kind of illustrates what some paint and a decluttering of signs will do for the facade and the look and feel of the store. Going on to page 6 is just a couple other examples of different designs for the outside of King Zone. Now, before I make a motion, I kind of just want to explain some of the due diligence that I've done throughout this whole process. Number one, I believe that the owner and operator of this store has a goal to be an asset to the neighborhood and not a liability. Number two, I've consulted with our corporation counsel, thank you very much, Counsel Hayes, along with the police chief and the liquor investigator, to come up with some ideas for a strong plan of operation to make sure we protect the interests, safety, and well-being of the surrounding neighborhood. More to come on those details later if things go well. Number three, I've also consulted with my neighboring district council member, Tim Riggenbach. Thank you very much for checking the store out and giving your input as well. This decision affects both of us equally because it's right on the border of our districts. So I thank you for having an open mind. Lastly, number four is I met with Madam Mayor yesterday because I didn't want her to be blindsided by what I was about to do. So I walked into every proclaimed grocery store / market in this whole area. And it probably isn't a surprise to anybody here to find out that they mostly sell a bunch of junk food, pop, tobacco, and vapes, something that we're all concerned with. Everybody here knows my style and how I feel about a free market economy and law-abiding citizens being able to sell whatever they want, as long as they follow the law. So to each their own. I wish them success. But this is why I brought this packet to you today, because this is very different from those other stores. It's actually a grocery store, and it is really struggling to keep its doors open. Now, we all talk about food deserts at one point or another, and I think we can all probably agree, because it's a fact, that there is very, very little profit to be made on groceries alone. Now, if a law-abiding citizen is bringing groceries to a food desert and also wants to keep his doors open and continue to try to be an asset to the community, I would like to try to help him. Now, this means that the operator is going to put his money where his mouth is, okay? Because facade improvements, new signage, and upgrades in general take a lot of time and money. So I'm not here to ask to approve this motion. I'm here to ask and make a motion to defer this item until our March 24th meeting to give the owner the chance to make improvements. After that time, I will keep everybody up to date, and I will bring receipts, proof as to what's going on to know where to go from there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. So you made a motion, and it's been seconded by Councilman Allen. I do have some questions for you, and one of them is as it relates to what King Zone Grocery could look like, these designs. Are these your designs, or are these the owner's designs?
The owner has taken a lot of confidence in me to kind of direct him to be an asset, more of an asset to the community. So these are just AI-generated images, basically meant to illustrate how some paint and decluttering of signs can change what a person thinks about when they drive by it.
Okay. And he's willing to make some financial investments to kind of bring it up, upgrade his property to perhaps one of these looks, designs?
Yes, ma'am. Now, I think the first picture you see under, is it's a stretch. It's going to cost a lot of money. But I just want to see if this operator can be successful And I do want to give him time in order to make some of these changes.
Okay. And, not to stereotype this store, but there's been similar stores like this in other parts of the city, on mainly the south side, the East Bluff, near North Valley, I would say for the most part, less so in the central part of the city, but mostly council districts 1, 2, and 3. And in many of those instances, there was denials, recommendation by the police to deny packaged liquor, which includes not just beer and wine, but all types of liquor for a Class C. But, yeah, I mean, I applaud your efforts to try to support this business owner to upgrade his property and for this not to just be a packaged liquor store, because many times, I think when some of these stores get their liquor license, then that becomes the main product. Grocery doesn't become the main product. It's the sales are overtaken by alcohol, beer, wine, and other alcohol. So I know that you're looking at a plan of operation. Would you say that that plan of operation might restrict the types of alcohol sale, or are you considering that, Councilman?
The plan of operation that I would support would be very strict. It would probably be on a gradual basis to make sure and start out with, say, packaged beer and wine only. And if after a period of time of proven good behavior, to let that expand into maybe liquor that is behind the counter,
Okay.
which is covered by glass and is protected. So it will be a gradual move, all dependent on the performance and compliance from this operator.
Okay. And so my question now is directed to Corporation Counsel Hayes as it relates to plan of operation, and as the liquor commissioner, maybe I should know the answer to this, but a Class C allows for the sale of all types of alcohol. Can a plan of operation, would it be appropriate for a plan of operation to restrict a store like this from other types of alcohol besides beer and wine? And I know we restrict our gas stations to just the beer and wine.
So the council in its ordinance has given itself a free hand to fashion a plan of operations and condition any licensure on the plan of operations. So a plan of operations approved by the council would allow the method that Councilman Carmona described,
Okay,
and give the council assurance that that's enforceable and ties back to the licensure.
okay, very good.
So if the site approval was more generous than the plan of operations allowed, it would allow the meeting of the conditions of the plan of operations to ease those restrictions without coming back to council for relicensure.
Okay, very good, thank you. Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think Corporation Counsel, you just answered my question, but the plan of operation is attached to the license, not the site. Is that correct?
The ordinance allows the council to condition any license on the conditions that are in the plan of operations. The site approval gives the broadest permission available, and the council can restrict that with a plan of operations and control the licensure that way. And the mayor issues licenses without coming back to council once there's site approval. And so that flexibility, this is how that flexibility is accorded in circumstances like this.
So in our fear always that a new owner comes in, the liquor commissioner / mayor would have the ability to require plan of operation on a new owner as well, correct?
So our ordinance speaks to the council when they do a site approval, making a plan of operations. During the course of enforcement proceedings, to settle enforcement matters, the mayor this mayor and prior mayors have offered a plan of operations as a method of resolving a liquor violation, short of a suspension or revocation. And so they've been fashioned in that way through the mayor's enforcement authority. But this method is supported in the ordinance as well. Thank you.
So it wouldn't be transferable to a next owner?
Right.
The plan of operation would be specific to this owner? Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Please cast your ballots. This is to defer until March 24th, I believe. Councilman Velpula? Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
26-57 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to receive and file the month that ended December 31st, 2025 unaudited financial report.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our Finance Director is back up at the podium, and I'll turn the floor over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. In your packet is the last regular financial report for 2025. A little bit different with this report compared to the reports that I provided you previously is I did provide the usual report that looks at this really on a cash basis that we have collected revenues and we've had expenses out. So I'll touch on that first, but I also put some information in here for the council of where we look like we're going to end 2026 at this, or 2025 at this point. So the report is presented. The general fund, the revenue is down 8.2% compared to budget. Again, that budget number is going to be the budget number for the entire year. That's really why you're seeing that difference. On the expense side, we are down 4.1% compared to expected budget. So really kind of some of the same traits that we've seen over the last few months in terms of what that, where our financial assumptions have gone. I'll kind of turn over more to the financial report or the memo that gets into, really taking into account that activity that we've had post December 31st. So those collections of things like sales tax, as well as some income tax, and as well as some additional expenditures that we traditionally have. We are going to be closing our books in the next week or so, so we are close to having a pre-audit financials, and that's what's in front of you tonight. So really, I would call really the main differences is we had assumed a little bit over $129 million in revenue for the general fund. We're tracking to be closer to $132 million. That's really driven by stronger than anticipated home rule sales tax as well as state sales tax. Some of the changes that were made in the last budget really helped us on out-of-state sales tax. We really, I believe, got more revenue out of out-of-state sales tax versus the use tax, which was really a proportion of, on a per capita basis, we kind of won out in that formula. The other piece is there was taxes now charged on leased equipment. And that's another area that, while not necessarily directly anticipated when we were looking at the budget, those numbers have been relatively strong in terms of what we're seeing in that market. So that's really where we've seen that growth in revenue and why we continue those assumptions going into the 26 budget. On the expense side, we'd assumed $133 million in expenses. We're going to be right around $131.1 million in expenses. Really, it's really kind of goes back to the staff again, making sure they're being diligent with how we're spending the money and what we are using the funds for. And so I just want to give kudos to the staff to always being mindful of how we're using taxpayer dollars. And then really, I think really the bottom line, which is what everyone really looks at, we had anticipated a use of fund balance in 2025 of $3.7 million. We are actually going to have an addition to fund balance of a little bit over $1 million in the general fund. So it will continue to help us offset some of those long-term pension requirements that we're facing. So really we had almost a little bit over $4.5 million swing in anticipated results. So all in all, I think a good, strong financial year. We will come back to you when we have the finalized audit in either late June or early July. Some of these numbers can change slightly as we work through some, just how we have to treat some information and maybe some additional bills that come in. But I don't anticipate it's going to vary wildly from what's in front of you tonight. And so with that, I'm available if council has any questions.
Any questions, or can I get a motion to receive and file? Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you. And Director Craddy, I think Councilman Sear would be happy this evening were he here. And you answered the questions that I had, but I just think it's we're $1 million to the good that was not anticipated. Some of that comes from things we can't control, but I think in your role as finance director, you've been very prudent and have served the city very well. So I thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam.
Center. As you recall, the Civic Center received a $25 million grant from the state of Illinois, and we bonded $20 million. We're down to the final few center. But the two big projects that I just want to highlight, you'll be seeing construction fencing coming up around the Civic Center and surrounding City Hall basically here beginning in March as the arcade improvements are made. And then too bad Councilman Sears not here to hear the ice plant construction will actually begin in May. So a lot of good things happening. And if you haven't been to the Civic Center lately, I just really encourage you to enjoy this jewel that we have. It's truly never looked better, and it's going to look even better in another 18 months. So,
Right. Thank you, and thank you for your leadership in serving on the authority, the Civic Center Authority Board.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
appreciate that. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just, I don't have any particular business. I have to speak on everything tonight, apparently. But anyway, I would like to welcome, they're almost all gone, the scouts who were here and the scout that remains here. And just to let the council know, this past weekend was a merit badge university for the W.D. Boyce Council, although there were scouts that came from other councils too. And downtown is where they met, and primarily at the Distillery Labs. But a very enlightened group met here at City Hall. And they were shown into the chambers and shown all around and asked questions and got answers. And but it was it was kind of eye-opening for many of them. They just didn't anticipate the dignity of these chambers. And I would say there were 25 or 30 of them, and they were working on their citizenship in the community merit badge, as well as citizenship in the nation. So I'm not surprised, but I'm very happy that our city hall is open to things like that. I think those young men will not forget that. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. I totally agree. Councilmember Gordon-Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am thrilled to announce that this morning at 7 a.m., the city went live with our new dispatch and police record software system,
Oh,
commonly referred to as the CAD and RMS system. So for those who aren't familiar, CAD stands for Computer Aided Dispatch, and RMS is Records Management System. Our primary objective is to ensure that the more than 30 first responder agencies we serve, and most importantly, the community members who rely on us, experience no interruption in service. And so far, everything's been going great. I would like to take this time to thank the Emergency Communications Director, Brandon Blaney, who has done an amazing job, and the Information System Technology Program Manager, Rob Whitney, for his leadership. Together, the preparation for this transition has been amazing. This is an exciting and significant time. It's a milestone for all of Peoria. for our first responders, and most importantly, for the citizens of Peoria in this community. So again, thank them, and hopefully things will continue to go well. And I can tell you from professional experience, this new CAS system is like state of the art.
That's great.
Yes. So again, thank you to them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Fantastic. You're welcome. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, I have a question regarding juvenile crime. Is our lobbying firm that we have on the books, are they advocating for change at the state level? Is there something we can do locally to bring the police department leaders together to exhaust every resource we have to try to help the situation?
You know, Councilman, yes, and they are looking at avenues for us to look at legislation that we might be able to advocate for. Maybe if I could ask the police chief to come up and maybe just talk a little bit about, you know, his public statements recently and his advocacy has led to some additional comments and support from other police chiefs throughout the state. So I think that there's more effort that's moving in the right direction on that front. So
Thank you.
if I could just turn it over to the chief for a few moments to let him talk about that.
I was looking for an email I just sent out when you asked that question. So last week I drafted an email. Oh, let me apologize. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. I drafted an email just last week to send out to chiefs in and around the area, all the way out to Rockford, Elgin, West Chicago. Peoria is not the only city experiencing what we're experiencing. I mean, this is happening across not just Illinois, but across the nation. But I think this is a time right now for chiefs of police, the executives of each department, to really stand up and ask for what we want. We are the boots on the ground while the legislators are looking in. We should be able to tell them what we're looking for. And so that conversation has been started. I will be having a meeting here soon with a group of chiefs that we've reached out to. I presented a list of asks that I presented to the manager and our council that was pushed into the legislative breakfast a few weeks, was it a month ago now? I can't remember. So we're going to have this conversation. I've started this conversation with our state's attorney as well. Just had a conversation last week with the chief of Elgin, who just called me out of the blue and was talking about something they're working on. I said, this is perfect timing because their state's attorney is the president of the state's attorneys group for the state. And so we are starting to have this conversation, but we really need to get our ducks in a row to figure out what it is we want to see and what we want. We know what it is. We got to jot it down, put it on paper, and really present it the right way to our legislators. And so that's what we're working on, and we're driving that from Peoria, and there's other chiefs and other departments that are driving it in their counties. So we're going to come together to start presenting that. I think the time is now. We're seeing what's happening. There's legislation out there currently where they're working on trying to change the age to 21. We're against that. There's other things we're against as chiefs. And so we need to start voicing our voice now. And that's what we're going to do. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate your leadership. I know me and you spent some time together talking about these things. So I want you to know how happy and proud I am that you're our leader in the police department. Absolutely anything that you need from us, even if it's putting public pressure online or trying to do something to advocate for some sort of change, you let us know and we're there for you. Thank you.
Well, I'll say, I know I appreciate that. The police department appreciates the support that we're getting from you as a police department as a whole, and we're getting that support from our community, and we really appreciate that. It does not go unnoticed, and we're gonna push that information out to the public, and we hope our legislators will jump on board as well and see that it's needed. Some change is needed to modernize our juvenile justice. Yes, ma'am.
We're at citizens' opportunity to address the city council.
I was just wanting to know if it was possible to demolish the Big Al strip club in the city of Peoria to go along with the new arcade for the city hall, or the civic center. Just making a parking lot available and maybe limit the homeless population crowding by the city link. I didn't know if that was possible being addressed with the board here. Seems how murder took place, and I don't think it's able to reopen on the Ameren power grid. Might make a better message. That was all I had to address. Maybe ask. Thank you.
We have an executive session.